In this exercise, we're going to discuss ways to work with PDF files that you've created inside of Illustrator. I'm looking at Adobe Reader 9.3, and as I say, Adobe Reader is a free application available for download from adobe.com. It's available for the Mac and Windows and so on. And I'm going to go up to the File menu, and I'm going to choose the Open command, or press Control-O, Command-O on the Mac. And I'm looking at the contents of the 12 exporting folder. Now, if you're working along with me on the Mac, you should be able to see all of your files. On the PC, you're only going to see the PDF files. And so far, I haven't added a PDF file to this folder. I will, so you'll see a PDF file. However, if you want to be able to see the .ai file, which is what I want to open right now, here on the PC, you have to switch files of type from star.pdf to star.star. That is all files right there. So you can see the files that don't end in .pdf as well as the ones that do. Now there's the file I just created in the previous exercise, Ghost Robot with PDF.ai. I'm going to go ahead and click on the Open button in order to open it here inside of the Adobe Reader. And you can see that all of the information is there, complete with all the font definitions as well. So whether I have available to me Birch, News Gothic, or Adobe Caslon Pro, I can see all those fonts inside the PDF file. All right, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here so that I can take in the entire page by choosing View, Zoom, and then Fit Page, which is Control-0, Command-0 on the Mac. And then I'll also bring up my Pages panel here by clicking on this little Pages icon. And notice now I can switch from one page to another. So every one of my artboards is preserved as well. And here's the thing. Even though this is an Illustrator CS5 document, I could open it in, say, Acrobat 6, which is several years old and came out before Illustrator ever supported artboards, before that was even on Adobe's list. And yet those old versions of Adobe Reader and Adobe Acrobat will support your multiple artboards because they're built into the PDF definition of the file. All right, now let's say instead of handing off a PDF-compatible Illustrator file to your client, which is a little bit confusing because they may not know what to do with a .ai file, why not just give them a .pdf file, which will open automatically in Adobe Reader or Adobe Acrobat or what have you, plus you can include printer marks. And let me show you how that works. I'm going to switch back to Adobe Illustrator here. And I've got open Ghost Robot with PDF.ai, that same file we were just looking at inside Adobe Reader. And I'll go up to the File menu, and I'll choose the Save As command, or press Control-Shift-S, Command-Shift-S on the Mac. And I'm going to go ahead and switch Save As type from .ai to .pdf. And I'm going to change the name of this file to Robot with Printer Marks, like so. And then I'll click on the Save button in order to bring up this dialog box of PDF options. Now notice that the PDF preset will be set to Illustrator default. You might as well leave it there unless, let's say you're working with a commercial printer and they have some other preset that they want you to select. In that case, you would go ahead and select that preset, hand that file off to the commercial printer and so on. However, if nobody's giving you any special instructions, just leave it set to Illustrator default like so. Compatibility should be as far back as possible, and as far back as is reasonable for our purposes is Acrobat 6, so leave it set there. All these checkboxes, by the way, are set just fine by default, but you really want to make sure the first one, Preserve Illustrator Editing Capabilities, is turned on. That way, just as before, when we were saving a .ai file, we were embedding a PDF definition into it. This time, we're saving a PDF file and we're embedding a .ai file into it. So this will allow us to continue to edit the file here inside of Illustrator. Very important. Makes the file larger once again, but it's well worth it. I want you to check two other settings. Go over to compression here. Make sure color bitmap images is set to do not downsample so that we preserve those starry Photoshop images in the background at their original resolution. You also want to make sure that grayscale bitmap images and monochrome bitmap images are set to do not downsample, although those particular options are not going to affect this illustration. All right, next I want you to switch to marks and bleeds. And notice that we're seeing the exact same marks and bleeds options that we saw in the print dialog box. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and turn on all printer marks, and then we'll set the offset value just as we did in the last chapter, to 24 points like so. Notice that Illustrator is also going to respect the document bleed settings of 18 points all around. That's exactly what we want. So all you need to do now is click Save PDF, and you'll go ahead and save off the PDF version of that document. Illustrator will take a moment to go ahead and generate generate the document, you should see that name represented in the top left corner of the window now. It should say robotwithprintermarks.pdf. That's the file that you have open inside of Illustrator because you didn't export it. You saved it. All right, this time I'm going to go ahead and switch to the Adobe Bridge by clicking on the Go To Bridge icon there. And then I should see this file called robotwithprintermarks.pdf. I'll go ahead and double click on it in order to open it automatically inside of the Adobe Reader. And I'm going to zoom out once again by pressing Control-0, Command-0 on the Mac. Then I'll bring up the Pages panel, as I did before, and you can see that we have all these printer marks surrounding the artwork. So every single page of the document has printer marks, and these are the exact same printer marks you get when you print the document from Illustrator. So you've got the trim marks in the corners, you've got the various registration marks, you've got the color bars, you've got the labels, and so on. And notice that when you switch between these pages, you can see that the robot waves a little bit. I had no idea that the arm moved from one cover to the other, but there it is. So we've got all those trim marks. We have the crop marks around the skateboard and the surfboard as well. All that information is here inside the PDF file. But if I switch back to Illustrator, what's interesting is we are looking at that .pdf file. So this is the exact same file. We're not seeing the printer marks inside of Illustrator because over in Adobe Reader, you see the PDF version of the document. Over here inside of Illustrator, you see the AI version of the document that's built into the PDF file. So you do not have access to all the PDF information, including those printer marks. You're not going to be able to get in there and edit the printer marks because you can't see them here inside Illustrator. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, Illustrator is incredibly flexible at allowing you to share files with clients, with art directors, and so on using the PDF file format. In the next exercise, I'm going to show you how to convert an illustration to pixels so you can publish it on the web.